Hi, my name is Joni. I am a licensed mental health counselor. I work for Personal Counseling Service, but I have an office here at 305 Oliver.
I'm Pastor Donnie Whitlow, and I also have an office here at 305 Oliver. I'm one of the pastors on staff here, and my job here is care ministry, and I do a lot of counseling. So for the next few minutes, Joni and I are going to talk about addiction. You know, addiction is anything that I'm powerless over.
Oh, I love that.
Anything that I'm powerless over, and this is right out of the 12 steps. It becomes something where I can't manage my life dealing with it.
I love that. That's great. Yeah.
I think that pretty much explains it. And the thing of it is, we can be addicted to anything.
Anything,
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think though, culturally, we're very much hyper focused on substances, right?
Yeah.
And there's such a negative stigma that's attached to that. But if you put food in there, gasp.
Oh,
right? Like,
no, yeah.
That's not an
But
addiction.
if you ask anybody on the street, the first thing they would say was alcohol and drugs.
Absolutely.
And then that
Every
would be
time.
the end of it.
Every
Yeah.
time.
Because
Yeah.
then you might get into my space if you go further.
Right. Talk about food, we got a problem.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to go back to what you had just said, that I find myself powerless over. I can't say no. That I find that my life is unmanageable, and my choice of coping is not sustainable. It's not something that I can sustain for the rest of my life and still have a very healthy and functioning life.
Yeah, I think people, at some point, they think addiction, that you're doing it, you're having fun, or it's a party, or whatever it is. But it soon turns into something really different. It soon turns into something that I can't stop on my own. And that's, we're back to what we were talking earlier. You have to reach out. You have to ask for help. You have to say, I have a problem.
Yeah, and I think, I'm gonna point back to media, movies, TV shows that really give an accurate idea of what addiction looks like. It's not always Otis on the Andy Griffith Show, right? I mean, we're just like, oh, that's horrible. But watch some of your movies where the main character drinks a lot, right? And that's their way of coping, or they'll light up a cigarette, or they'll, right? So it very much looks different than I think what we're spoon-fed.
Yeah, you say coping or self-medicating. That's a big thing when it comes to addiction. It starts as self-medicating.
Absolutely.
Because those 3 drinks of bourbon in the evening really takes the edge off things.
Absolutely.
But before long, it's going to take 4 drinks of bourbon, and then, you know.
And I've always said, no little kid, in second or third grade, draws a picture and writes a sentence and says, what I want to be when I grow up is an addict, or I want to be, you know what I mean, where I can't live my life without fill in the blank.
First, you just have to talk. You have to admit that you have a problem. And that's the hardest thing in the world.
Yes, it is.
Is saying, this is something in my life that I can't manage anymore.
Yeah, because I am the hardest person to be honest with. Right, and once I can get to that part where I can honestly say to myself, "Hey, we have a problem here," because that's scary. The whole idea of getting help with addiction is, it's kind of a global thought that somebody's going to tell me to get rid of this.
Yeah.
And that's the equivalent of somebody being out in the ocean and you yelling, "Hey, just throw me your little life preserver and I'll take care of you."
As bad as we hate addiction sometimes, it's almost like a friend.
Absolutely.
And if you take that away from me, what do I have
I'm going to
left?
drown, right?
I have
That's the
nothing
only thing
left.
keeping me afloat.
And another thing, it's God intervening on our part at times. He put a man in my life when I was in the middle of an addiction who told me, I didn't tell him, he told me, you have a problem. And I didn't like it. It made me mad. But he was right. And so then he began to explain to me what my problem was and how I could deal with it.
Absolutely.
And it changed my life.
And when someone lovingly will even say, "Hey, you're addicted to people pleasing," right? This is not something you can manage and have a healthy life after that. Yeah. Wow, this is going to be an unpopular one.
Yeah.
Stop carrying them. You are not helping them. You are not helping them at all. The most helpful thing that you can do is be honest and have some real hard conversations and stop helping them to maintain this addiction.
So you mean if I give them money, or if I let them live with me when they are doing things they shouldn't be?
Right.
When do I know when enough is enough? Where's the line?
That's going to be different. It really is. I don't want to try to, spin that off, but it really is going to be different for each family, each person, and their circumstances.
Yeah.
I think there's a problem. Here we get into this idea of what's a good mom or a good dad, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? What's a good friend? Yeah.
I think when you and I look at it and we look in, we know it when we see it.
You're like,
and you can say,
long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right was when but you struggle with that. If I kick them out, they're going to live on the street.
Exactly.
And
And then I have to lay down and sleep at night knowing my son or daughter's
out there in the
street.
cold. Yeah.
There is a couple of things, and I don't mind saying it on the video. I was a drug addict, and I believe I still am. And people will say, well, God took that away from you, or you're a new creation. Well, you give me a little dope, and I'll show you that I'm still an addict, because I don't trust myself with that.
Right.
And the thing of it is, most people think of a 12-step program for addicts as this higher power, and it's not godly. Well, they use the higher power one time in the second step, and then they mention God in the next 5 times in the next 12 steps. But so I believe in my life, when I looked at God and I gave my life to Christ, I'm not putting God in a box, but I think I needed more. And then when I had the 12 steps along beside it, those two together were the difference in my life. And that's why I'm sitting here today.
And I've said it multiple times. I think everybody needs to read and adhere to the 12 steps. Everybody needs to work the 12 steps, whether or not you think you have an addiction.
I have went through them. I'm going through them right now with a guy. I have went through them literally hundreds of times, taught them hundreds of times. I don't think it's a one and done. It
just
never doesn't work like that.
12 always leads back to 1. Absolutely.
Amen.
Always, yeah.
I think that's a great place to stop. If you want to know more about addiction, or you have questions for Joni and I, or you'd like to come and see us, there's a link below. You can click on that link and it will send you to some other videos, or it will connect you to us. It's been really cool talking to you guys. We love you, and we'll see you soon.